Hello. As we get closer to Halloween, I thought I would share a few stories, some personal, some submitted to me by friends. I always hear how this time of year the veil is thin, allowing more access between the land of the living and the land of the dead. Whether you believe me or not is not my concern. I can only say that for myself, I find it hard to argue with what I've seen with my own eyes and experienced with my own senses. I can only hope you never have to experience anything like what I'm about to share with you. I think it was in 2014. I was living in a house with my boyfriend and my kids. My boyfriend had walked into the kitchen to make some tea. He set his cigarettes on top of the fridge and began to gather what he needed. Suddenly, his pack flew off the fridge and across the room. We did our best to ignore it and kind of laugh it off. That is, until my son began to tell me about the shadow people that would watch him at night. He told me that they would sit on his desk or at the foot of his bed all night long. Things began to escalate. TV started to turn off and on by themselves literally all night. Every morning when we would go to the restroom, we would hear an old lady singing to herself softly. I began to see demonic figures walk from my kids' room into the hallway or living room. Any room that it went into, it would suddenly become pitch black inside the room and dead silent, as if whatever was in there was sucking the light and noise from that room. One night, I was sitting at the kitchen table, alone, talking to my sister on the phone. All of a sudden, this god-awful, unearthly, deep growl traveled through my kitchen, down the hallway, and up into an AC shaft. I sat frozen in wide-eyed terror until my sister gasped. She had heard it too. The tipping point happened when I was laying in bed one night. A huge, inky, dark mass walked through my closet wall into my room. It stopped beside my bed and leaned over me. I felt cold all over. I felt dread, and I felt as if I was in danger. Moments later, a white mist came through the same wall, and in the blink of an eye, both figures were gone. Thank God we don't live in that house anymore. We moved out a year later. I remember when I was 12, my family and I lived in a 2-story house where the paranormal was normal. Up the stairs and at the end of the hallway, next to the creepy attic door, was my room. Now, the way my room was set up, when you walked in, to the left, there was my dresser, and to the right was a built-in desk and my closet. Across that, on the opposite wall, were 2 big windows with my bed situated in between. I remember one night in particular, I woke up and realized I was sitting straight up in bed. The first thing that stuck out was how bright the moonlight was in my room. The second was there was a sense of someone or something in the corner of my room by my dresser. The feeling of being watched grew, and my eyes were drawn to the hallway. The moonlight had no effect on the darkness outside my door. I could feel something there, hidden in the shadows, watching me. Being frozen in fear, I barely noticed my closet door swinging slowly open. I still can't explain why I did what I did, but I got up and I bolted to my closet to hide inside. The last thing I remember is sitting on the floor, peering out of the crack in the doorway, heart pounding, stomach clenched, with a foreboding sense that something was coming towards me. When I came to, I was being rocked in my dad's arms, and I was sobbing. The next day, my brothers told me that they woke up to me screaming bloody murder, and when they ran into my room, they panicked because I wasn't in bed. Instead, they found me inside my closet with my 2-tier bookshelf pushed up against the door as if to keep me in. They all commented on how evil it felt in that room when they found me. It was a Saturday morning around 8 o'clock. I was still laying in bed playing on my tablet. My youngest was in the living room watching TV, and my second youngest was still asleep. We were the only ones home. See, my youngest has a habit of singing to himself as he plays. Not only that, but he gives his toys voices and an entire plot to play out. As I was playing on my tablet, I could hear singing and playing coming from his room through the wall. I usually tune it out, and if it gets too loud, I tell him to keep it down, which he does, but then he starts to get loud again. It's just a routine we have. I yell out for him to be quiet, and then I remember he's not in his room. And so I call out for my daughter. The whole time, I can still hear the muffled singing and talking and playing coming through the walls. I'm not getting any answers from the kids, so I throw my covers off, get up, and walk to my bedroom door. As soon as I open my bedroom door, it stops. Meanwhile, my youngest is walking down the hallway towards me. And even though I already know the answer, I ask anyway, "Was that you?" He looks at me confused, tells me he was watching TV, and so I go to my daughter's room. I open the door and I ask her, "Was that you?" She picks her head up sleepily and says no. I'm starting to panic. "But you did hear that, right? I'm not just imagining things?" She tells me no again, thinking it's her brother. It's not him. I know it's not. I walk into his bedroom, and the first thing I noticed is how freezing cold it is. I gather my nerve to tell it to get out. I yell out forcefully, and the only thing that happens is I get goosebumps all over my entire body.